because that would mean I'd have to stand still, and I'm not good at standing still. We've met. So thanks for having me back. We need to turn that down, it's a little hot. I think it was, what was it? It was Mother's Day. I think it was Mother's Day. Yeah, I know. How quickly I block out things about my mother. Just kidding. Just kidding. So I want to start, the story of the talk is called The Danger of a Single Story, and it comes from a TED Talk that I'll say a little bit about later. But first I want to do a little exercise, which means I would like you to close your eyes. We're going to do a little visualization. So whatever you're holding in your hands, if you can, just put it away. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you're going to create an image in your mind. So imagine you're late for a flight. I think most of us may have experienced this. So inside, you can see yourself rushing to get to the airport, rushing to get checked in, rushing to get to the gate, rushing to get, or even before that, to get through security, you know, and you show up and the line is really long and you can feel the stress and the anxiety growing. So keep your eyes closed, paint a picture in your mind, what it looks like, what it feels like. You run to the gate, you rush down the jetway, you step on the plane, whew. And as you step on the plane, the pilot steps out of the cockpit and says hello, and you finally smile and you say hi and you go to your seat. And then you get to your destination, you get to your hotel and you check in, and you find that this goes much more smoothly, and you get up to your room and unpack your suitcase, and you can see the room inside, right? And unpacking your suitcase and putting things where they go, because you're going to be there for several days for a conference. You look outside the window for your view. And then you decide to check out where the best restaurant is in this town that you're in. And so you go downstairs, you ask the front desk, and then you go on your way to a restaurant. And you wind up having this phenomenal, best meal ever, whatever that is for you. And remember, there's no calories in imagination. So you just imagine your best meal ever. And so you see yourself enjoying your meal in this amazing restaurant that you've never been in a city you've never been in, that's full of life. And you look next to you and there's a couple celebrating an anniversary. And you can tell because there's some cake and candles and presents, and they're seeming to be a little bit romantic and smiling. Until you finish your meal and you go back to your hotel and you get a good night's sleep. And then the next morning you get up and you head over to this giant conference center for the biggest technology conference in the world. And you find your seat and you sit down and you're ready and you're looking forward to all the things you're going to hear and learn. And then the CEO steps onto stage. And this is the CEO of the hottest startup tech company in the world right now. And the CEO gets on the stage and starts to speak, and you're just captivated. Now open your eyes. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. And you don't have to say the answer out loud. They're yes or no questions, but you don't have to say them out loud, but just notice inside what your answer is. When you got on the plane, and when I said the pilot came out of the cockpit, was the pilot black? Was the pilot a woman? Right? When you were at the restaurant and you looked at the couple sitting next to you celebrating their anniversary, was it two men? When you got to the technology conference and saw the CEO step up on stage, did they look like me? So if you answered no to any of those questions, it's okay. My point is that's drawing your attention to what we call a single story. And it's what's technically called an unconscious bias, right? We have a story that long ago was implanted, our cultural assumptions about people and roles and activities, that when we talk about pilot, there's just this unconscious thing that generally goes to a man. and what our unconscious biases are oftentimes don't have anything to do with what we really believe and what we value. It's just they were implanted eons ago before you were even verbal and had language. It's their cultural assumptions that we have been trained to believe and understand and live by. My sister's a pilot. My dad was a pilot. You know, we know that pilots come in lots of different varieties, although they do have height restrictions, so I'm a little bummed about that. But, and then when we get to the couple, right, how many of us saw a man and a woman? It's not a bad thing, it's not to beat ourselves up about it, it's just to point to the place that, oh, I have this unconscious thing that's still working in me, that's what, you know, a romantic relationship is. It has nothing to do with that you actually, you know, people get triggered like, no, that's not what I believe. I got it. I can carry I can be the best ally ever for LGBTQ and still have operating underground because it's so old, this unconscious story that a romantic couple is a man and a woman. First time that I discovered that happened, I went, oh, I got all incensed. I'm like, no, wait, that's not me. That's not me. That's not what I think, that's not what I believe. Got it, but it's this operating system that a bias is a mental shortcut that our brain makes. That it's a mental shortcut that our brain made eons ago, before you even knew it.
Like cutting a corner.
Yes.
Bias.
Yes. It's just cutting, and it's mental shortcuts that the brain makes that it's supposed to make. It's how I know that when I go to the grocery store, I already know where all the produce I want is. Because I've been here before and my brain has made these mental shortcuts. I know where the Granny Smith apples are, I know where the Red Delicious apples are, and I'm not going there, I'm going over here. It's these mental shortcuts the brain already makes. When I go to the zoo and I go, and I go see the tigers, I don't get real close. Of course, I'm not going to probably get close enough where the tiger can get to me, but I don't sit and decide what are the properties of a tiger and is it going to be dangerous or not. My brain already knows. It's already created this mental shortcut that this is danger, go away. Our brain already works on the assumption and is looking for what's safe, what's familiar, what's comfortable, right? Our brain already does that. And it does that based on our life history, based on our life experience, based on what we've just absorbed for the last, how old are you? Like, that's how many years we've been absorbing. You know that the brain gets 11 million bits of information per second. The brain gets bombarded with 11 million bits of information per second. Feel overwhelming? Yeah. And yet, guess how many it actually can take in and process?
2.
No, a little bit more, but that's a good guess. I think as we age, we get closer. Yeah, I'm only good for 2. Like, it's Sunday afternoon, I can only do 3 maybe, right? 40. So there's 11 million bits of information that come at us. The brain can process 40. What's the mechanism it uses to process those 40? The systems it already has in place. You with me? Making sense? So the reason that I wanted to talk about the danger of a single story is that we're all walking around with them, and with these mental shortcuts, right? This operating system that we may not be aware of. And I wanted to talk about it because it impacts how we be in spiritual community. It impacts how we be with each other out in the world. It impacts everything that we do. And we don't even know it. That's why they're called unconscious biases. Because they're unconscious. They're just riding underneath. We have unconscious biases in churches. And we heard one this morning. Should I point it out to you? Sure. You going to get annoyed at me? No. All right, you promise? I won't have to run for the door? That without a minister, we don't have to hear the same thing every week. So there's an assumption for someone somewhere that a minister's role looks like this, right? I know, I'm picking on you. Not really. He's like, yeah, guilty. Right? It's not, so I'm not shaming, blaming, but it's just noticing how do I hold the role of a minister? And that is that the whole story? No, it's not. So we have an image of what a minister is, what a minister does, based on our past experience. Anyone ever made an assumption about you?
Yeah.
Like what? You don't want to cough it up? I'll use one of mine. So I have been accused, or been told, that's probably a better way to say it, been told that I'm aloof. Yes, sir.
My son has made an assumption about me that I have a never-ending wall.
Deep pockets.
So I have been told that I am aloof. And so when I've been told that, I'm like, really? Interesting. And my first thought is like, well, no. And what I have to remember is that however I'm being and how I'm showing up is occurring for that person from their experience. Am I a powerful person? Yes. Am I sometimes quiet? Yes. Right? Do I sometimes walk into a room of crowded people and hang back? Absolutely. It's not because I'm aloof, it's because y'all scare me. And I say that in jest, but there's an element of truth in that. When I walk into, maybe some of you experience that, I walk into a room of a whole bunch of people, I hang back a little bit. And this is what we do. This is how the brain works. We sort of like, it's like we're sending out little, tentacles. And so the brain can say what's safe, what feels familiar, what feels valuable, right? Where do I want to, and so that's an assumption that someone has made about me. It's not one I enjoy, but it's just knowing what it is. Do I change how I be and how I show up? A little bit, maybe, but just to have the information. But what it does is it tells me that this person has an experience of what aloof means, and that experience comes from a long before I met them, right? So the flip side of that is then noticing the assumptions that I hold about others, right? Assumptions that I hold, these biases, these single stories. Is that the only thing about me that I'm aloof? Please, I need at least a few people saying no.
Absolutely not.
No, it's one slice, right? It's one slice of me. I've also had people tell me that I'm intimidating. I can get that. Is that all of me? No, it's a slice. Am I more than that? Absolutely. But what's the danger of that one slice?
You don't get the whole picture.
Yeah, and what's the danger that then goes out into the world?
That you're the other.
Yes, that I'm the other. And then as you share about me with people, you might interject your experience of me being intimidating. So now this creates this single story about who I am, without a person getting to know who I am and this larger, like think of pie, right? And slice it into a whole bunch of pieces. That's one piece. How many of us grew up or spent time watching Disney movies? What color are the princesses? White, European, yeah. It's just that's one of those unconscious cultural assumptions that just goes on in our world.
Are they still?
No,
No, not anymore.
no, they've changed. And even what's changed is what princess means and how they're dressed and wearing a crown. They've now gotten very multicultural princess. So, but the danger of the single story is that it creates a stereotype, right? It creates a stereotype of what a person is, of a place, of a whole group of people, right? We have stereotypes of a whole group of people. There are stereotypes about overweight people that I'm very conscious of. I go through a grocery store, I got food in my cart, and I know that I'm passing by someone that is taking stock of what's in my cart. Yes, right? I know that. I know when I'm sitting on an airplane and people are getting on, they're like, oh, know, they don't want their seat near me because I'm gonna spill over a little bit. I know that. I got it. So, for me, the work is that I know that there's this stereotype, and how do I hold it about me? The truth is that there are times when I have been on an airplane, or let me just stick with the grocery store one, and someone walks by, and they look in my cart, and they look at me, and they keep going. Now, of course, I'm making up what I think they're thinking, but what I'm making up is coming from a stereotype that lives in our world. And all of a sudden, I'm taking it on. I'm looking in my cart and going, yeah, I probably shouldn't have. And all of a sudden, this guilt and shame washes over me, right? I shouldn't be eating that, or there is, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, and I keep a stereotype going. You ever find yourself self-fulfilling prophecy? Right? So that's part of that danger of the single story. Is that all there is about me? Is about being, my weight? Never mind overweight, but just weight. Right? What judgments do we have about thin people? Or stereotypes or opinions?
They don't need enough.
They don't eat enough? What else?
They might be ill.
They might be ill? What else?
Anorexic.
Anorexic? Yeah.
They're in shape and they may not be.
They're in shape, yeah. And they may not be. Yeah. That they're prettier, they're what? Somebody was good. Popular? Yeah.
Well, and this is really a good lesson so far, because
So far, I know. I gotta see where we're going with this.
Yeah, I gotta wait for the final.
Yeah.
I gotta
yeah.
wait for the final conclusion
I'm
here, but no, really, I mean, this is really good because I catch myself all the time doing that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, and usually it has no basis, but it comes from that ingrained, society type thing,
Yes.
know. So yeah, I catch myself all the time doing this.
Yes.
About all kind of subjects.
Absolutely, yeah, that whether the unconscious bias or the thought is hurtful or harmful or marginalizing or diminishing another person or not, oftentimes they do. What's the danger of the stereotype is that there oftentimes is some truth in it, The challenge is that it's an incomplete story. It's so incomplete.
It's a blockade.
Absolutely, which is exactly where I was going next. That it's that blockade, and so why am I talking about all this? So come back, let's make it come. So far, it's okay, let's see where we're going. Right? Yes, it's a blockade, so
When we judge them, for whatever reason, then we're closing the door to become part of them somehow in that moment in time, even if
Yes.
it's in the grocery line.
yes, absolutely. So my work is, whether it's, I realize there's, these biases I have about myself, these stereotypes or assumptions that are cultural assumptions that I've taken on, through my own life experience, my mother told me for years, and then I wonder why I took it on, that she gained all this weight with me and never got rid of it, as compared to the other 4 children. And I remember and she would say it, so I say it all the time. In my memory, it was very frequently. I honestly couldn't tell you how frequently enough that I remember it like it was yesterday, right? And so as a child, you can adopt it, and everything as a child, you make your own, right? I'm the reason. And so I take that on, and so there's something not okay about weight, right? And I'm gonna carry it. And so whether these mental shortcuts, right? These biases, these quick ways of thinking and assumptions and stereotypes and these single stories that we carry, whatever they may be, the way through them, which become the blockade, is through mental cleansing. Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said mental cleansing is the beginning of all healing. That mental cleansing is necessary for healing. So mental cleansing, for me, that through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight and we are healed. Through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight and we are healed. through mental cleansing, I trust by spiritual insight, and we are healed. Say that with me together. Through mental cleansing, I trust in spiritual insight, and we are healed. It's a long one. I'll say it again in a little bit before I'm done. So, what are some of the, so I want to just, before I keep moving into, so what's our homework? Why do I care? What do we do about this? How do you do mental cleansing? So what are some, so in a spiritual community, I don't want to, we have these ones in our culture, but we also have them within religion, right? Within spiritual communities and our spiritual practices. How many of you are familiar with creeds? Creeds, C-R-E-E-D. How many of you, when you hear the word creed, you go, the breath catches a little bit, like, oh, no, not here, not gonna happen, nope, we're anti-creed, there's no such, right? We have, and why is that?
Because we've made a judgment that that's wrong, that creed happens to be wrong according to the way we believe now.
Yeah, and where did it come from?
Some kind of experience.
Yes. Somewhere along the line, you had a creed stuffed down you, right? There's a saying in the Jewish scripture Talmud, in the Talmud writings, that the goal for teaching youngsters Torah is to stuff Torah like an ox. So to stuff Torah into the child like feeding an ox, just stuff it in. That's how they learn it. So that's how we, sometimes creeds from other faith traditions get, you say it every week, and sometimes you just say it mindlessly before you know it. It's just part of who you are. And yet, then we come to a place where like, oh, no, I don't want to, no, I like the freedom of not having a creed, right? And yet, if I look at people, some people, how many of us have a reverence for Gandhi or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? They had creeds. They spoke creeds. Creeds were part of their religious and spiritual practice, right? So there's more to the story. So to put a creed, now hear me, I'm not suggesting this community adopt a creed, but I'm using it as a point of reference that within religion, within spiritual creed, we have these, no matter how, even though we work so hard to be open and accepting and welcoming and, right? But we still, so when we notice that we have a judgment about a creed or something getting close to, well, we really this should be kind of solid, right? Solid kind of, no, we start to back off a little bit. Because we have an assumption from our past, we have a single story around what creed means, right? Or what a teaching, foundational teaching. And it's just pointing to something that needs some mental cleansing. We've carried around a belief that needs a little cleanup, right? So through mental cleansing, doing the work, which for many is the practice of denials and affirmations, right? Denying that this is my belief, denying that this is truth, denying that being overweight is bad, like actually excavating that thought. And then what am I affirming that is truth, capital T? Okay. Prayer, meditation, there's a lot of, there are multiple practices for mental cleansing. You could here's a really good way, it might get old and annoying really fast, is you could have a friend, and as soon as I say it, you'll know why it might get annoying really fast. You could have a friend that helps point out to you the words or actions that you are demonstrating that are about stereotype or that are unbiased, that are not questioned. That's the biggest thing you can do, is actually slow yourself down and question every element of certainty that you're having. Is slow down, and question. Do I really think that? And where did that come from? And why am I thinking that? And how is that just part of the story? We don't, you have somebody in your life that you kind of hold a certain way, I'll just use me. So people that have told me that I'm intimidating, for their whole life I'm intimidating. There's no space for me showing up differently, because they won't let me. Because that's their story, that's their single story. And yet when we do allow someone to be different, that's the slowing down and the questioning and inquiring. Is this person really intimidating? You know, or is that me and my bad day that I'm having? Through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight. Spiritual insight comes from questioning, comes from, is this true? Right? Yeah, you know the work of Byron Katie, is this true? Can I know it's true? Like, is it really true? Or is it just part of this operating system I'm making? You with me?
Yeah.
Going pretty heady. So, what could you do today that is something specific you could do today to uncover a single story that you carry? So I cheated because I gave you a couple, but what's something you could do today to uncover? Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking back to the talk that Ben Jameson gave as well, about how we get these conversations going in our head, and when that happens, there's probably a single story involved. So the trick is, first, catch it,
Mm-hmm.
realize and say, is this true? Is this what I want to be? If it's not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did I get here? How did I get to this belief? Because the belief comes from long ago. It's that cultural assumption that was implanted long ago. Right?
I've kind of started doing that with drivers.
Yes!
That's
Yes.
something that we, and that a-hole, and I will catch myself and go, I don't know his story. I mean,
Yes.
I'm sending him blessings.
Yes.
That he gets where he needs to go safely.
Right. And let me slow down and get out of their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to be in front of me? It's okay.
Right.
Get
Yes.
in line.
Right. Yeah, it's that, it's questioning the certainty. It sounds counterintuitive, but when the moment that I've made a decision about a person or a group of people or an experience or a place, I need to question my certainty. That's how I find those places that are the stereotypes.
Well, I can think of one in
Yeah.
particular that's really been on my mind. So, with all of the American tourists that have been killed in the Dominican Republic,
Mm-hmm.
that's a place that I want to go. Because it's beautiful and I'm seeing
Right.
pictures and we were planning on, but I'm kind of like, I ain't going there. I don't want to get killed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the story that's in my head, and so I've just blown it off as a potential vacation spot now.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. So it's questioning the certainty of the assumption that I'm making of the single story. Yes, ma'am.
So Eric Butterworth had that 7-day word diet that he did one time,
Mhm.
is the thing. I'm thinking though you need to add another layer to that because even in choosing the words, you need to question that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And are the words I'm choosing what I really mean
Right.
them to be?
Right.
Yeah.
And why am I thinking like that?
Yep. Yeah. Because you have to remember, these are mental shortcuts, right? Our brain has already decided something, and it's just instantaneously taking this little mental shortcut. So what happens how does our world change when we start uncovering these little mental shortcuts and assumptions and single stories?
Go back to zero.
Yeah, what happens to our world?
Opens up.
It opens up. What else?
Well, we're not living in the past with the unconscious bias. We become part of the present moment or whatever that happens to be. And we are so open to possibilities that we may never have known that would exist.
Yeah.
That this other person is not the other, it is definitely somebody's child, and they may be a mother or a father, they have sisters and brothers, like you do. And then you become somehow connected to them,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's the whole purpose of what we're here.
Yeah, it's like reclaiming paradise. Yeah.
Becomes more loving.
Becomes more loving. Yep. How much of that do we need these days?
I think it puts us in a state of grace.
Yes.
If we are dropping.
Yeah.
Also puts you back to now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and I just feel better. Here I am, I'm angry at that driver. Now I want to help him. Let me slow down. I feel better.
Right.
And
Through
it's all about
mental,
me.
through mental cleansing, your spiritual insight, there's healing. So when I say I feel better, that's a healing moment. I've aligned myself with the truth of my being and the truth of their being. That, you know, I don't know what's going on for them, and, right? Yeah.
An illustration where there was an ad on TV and for a news show, and the guy sits in the subway, he next to a black woman who isn't excited about him sitting there, and he turns to her and says, "Where are you from?" And
Yeah.
she looks at him and says, "Nigeria," and he said, "Well, that's a long commute."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So how, you know, I mean, there's like 8 talks in one here. So, you know, through our mental cleansing, which is, there's multiple ways to cleanse the mind, right? There's the practice of mindfulness. There's denials, there's affirmations, there's, you know, in meditation, there's all these ways. The first is to be aware. I gotta know, I don't know what I don't know. And for the most part, these stereotypes are operating unconsciously, I don't know. So we slow down, we take time to notice what we're thinking, and it's just, it's a habit, it's a practice you have to build. Like going to the gym and lifting weights, right? Learning to slow down and see what it is I'm thinking, what's alive, and then start actively imagining yourself in someone else's place. Like you did with the driver. Actively imagine yourself, what would it take for me to behave that way, right? You ever, I don't know about you, but I periodically have judgments about other people's behavior. Yeah, once in a while, it's pretty big. And when I have a judgment about somebody else's behavior, and I know, like, and then the next step is, I know if they just did it my way, everything would be much better. There'd be less conflict, there'd be sweeter, we'd all get along, blah, 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 right? So you slow down, notice what you're thinking, questioning what you feel really certain about that you've decided, and then take the perspective of the other person. And how do I do, what is it required of me to take the perspective of another person? Sorry? Yeah? Empathy?
Let go of your own, let go of your idea, your picture being the only way.
Yes, and what do I need to do to know someone else's worldview and someone else's perspective?
Listen.
Yes, I have to get to know them. I got to engage in a conversation. I have to be willing to be changed by what they say. Right? Doesn't mean I take it on and make it my belief system, but I have to be willing to be changed. And keep questioning. Slowing down, taking another perspective, keep questioning. Slow down, it's never ending. But through that mental cleansing, what you'll find is you actively participating in your spiritual insight, in your opening statement, your Christ consciousness, right? You're actively participating in and from that consciousness, which means you're healed, and we're healed. And there's more love, there's more compassion, there's more kindness, there's less of the othering. Right? Breathe. Exhale. Through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight, and we are healed. We'll say it one more time, and I want you to say it with me. Through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight, and we are healed. One more time, like you actually mean it. Together? Through mental cleansing, I trust my spiritual insight, and we are healed. Let's take that into meditation. If you're comfortable, close your outer eyes. Take a deep